returns to the U.S. from Afghanistan war. And he comes back because he hadn't previously finished his high school degree. He filled in application for GED, which is equivalent to high school degree, called graduate equivalent degree. So on the given day, he comes to that examination hall. Unfortunately, when he comes inside, he comes only about 10 minutes before examination ends. Somehow he got mixed up with time. So he begs with the proctor, please, allow me to give this exam. And the proctor says, I'm sorry, I cannot, because, you came in late. So proctor, who also happens to be the, chairman of the board, finally, he kind of felt, like a sorry for him. It was GI who served for the country, came back, and he wanted to work with him. He said, okay, here's the deal I'm going to make with you. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and if you answer properly, I'm going to give you your GED degree. He says, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So anyway, he started the number 1 question. He says, please tell me how many days in a week starts with the letter T. I said, oh, that's such an easy question. 2. And then he tells him, please tell me what are they? He goes, today and tomorrow. You say, no, that's not what I was looking for. But I can't say you're wrong, because yes, today starts with T and tomorrow also starts with T. So all right, I'll give you this credit for this one. Now I'm going to ask you next one. I want to be careful. Listen and answer me properly. He says, how many seconds are in a year? He thinks and thinks and he thinks. He says, I got it. 12. He said, how in the hell you came up with that answer? He goes, January the 2nd, February the 2nd, and he keeps going. He goes, you got me here too. That's not what I was expecting. And he says, okay, you know what? I have no choice but to give you credit for 2. I'm going to ask you the last question. And since this GI, had been in connection with the Gorkhas, because, Afghanistan, there are a lot of Gorkhas working side by side. He said, okay, tell me how many letters with, H are in Nepali anthem. And he goes, 43. What are they? He goes, So the idea is, business is not about, what has been taught. It is not about what we learn in school. It is about the opening up our mind. School is all about opening up our mind. And if you look at the value that has been created by entrepreneurs, and most of that comes from new paradigm, which is basically what's considered to be, would consider normally not, like a standard. Microsoft, Zuckerberg. You look at all the guys have created the companies that prior to them creating, people never thought there is any market for that, any value for that, but they created it. So the idea about learning is how to learn. It's not what to learn. So school that you are learning in KCM, things that you have learned so far, I hope one thing you're taking out from it is like how to learn. And from that, you can create your own value in the business. You may ask me, what has it to do with the derivative, right? Because I'm supposed to be talking about derivative. And, absolutely nothing. Nothing. Namaste and good morning. I thank KCM for this opportunity. My name is Roger Adhikari. Although I'm asked to speak on derivative, I'm going to tell you a little disclaimer. I'm no expert on derivative. I have not really worked in a bank. I'm a corporate financier, worked for over 2 decades, but not really in a capacity, mostly in a corporate financing capacity, done pretty much everything except investment. So this is not the area of my expertise, but I'm going to try to explain to you, as simply and as easily as I can explain. And so if there is any complicated questions, maybe I can forward to bankers. They may be able to answer you more questions on derivative. Okay? So what is the derivative? Derivative is basically, it comes from calculus, as we all know, right? It is a sensitivity of change in input in respect to output. In change in output in respect to input, basically. It's a curve. You are identifying, or you are calculating the area within the curve as it moves. So it's a moving target. But in finance, it's a rate at which 1 unit of output changes with respect to input, right? What that means, translating it, it is a future market. It is a speculative market. What you are doing, you are betting on a future, and based on what you see right now. So this is the example of derivative is, and it's like interest rate, exchange index, exchange values. There are a whole lot of gamut of products they have baked into derivative that you can do. And why they do it? Derivative is a product that basically does two things. That one thing is it helps manage your risk, right? Because the investment has a manifold, and some companies can manage risk. Some company can tolerate risk with certain level, other cannot. And so somehow derivative has been in the market for a long time, but I think 70s and 90s actually it peaked big time, and it started mostly from the U.S. And the players that started it like a big bankers, Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, all these guys. You have Citibank. All these bankers, they came up with this idea, how we're gonna create a value and how we're gonna manage risk. It is also it's a very highly specialized, business, because people spend a lot of years developing basically models and then calculate the future revenue projections and all those things. So total derivative market right now, it exceeds, and just keep in mind, $1,000 trillion. If you look at nominal market value today in derivative, it exceeds that. It's a huge, huge, huge market, And then the players, Citibank and Bank of America's, HSBC's, these are the top players in the world. The derivative exchanges, are made or done. Transactions are done, like two different ways. One is what they call OTC, over the counter. The other one is through the exchanges, trading exchanges. Like in New York Stock Exchange, the Chicago Mercantile, the Korean Stock Exchange, and European stock exchanges. These are the big players, exchanges in terms of transactions in derivative market. And but almost half of the derivatives exchanges takes place, through the over-the-counter OTC. That's what they call them. Derivative, like a basic types of derivatives are, several of them, 4 of them, mainly forward contracts, future contracts, option contracts, and swaps. These are the most commonly known. And then you hear others. These are the, derivation of, of all these mixes. So the forward and futures are pretty much act the same way, except, in both derivative, what you are doing, you essentially, contracting or signing an agreement where you say you're going to pay, value for certain thing, like I say 1 year from now, with the price that's been fixed right now, right? And the forward is basically done to the OTC. The future is done through stock exchanges, trading exchanges. And so that's the difference between forward and the future one. The other type is option contracts. There are 2 kinds, call and put. Call is like basically you have an option to buy, not obligated, but option to buy. And put is you have an option to sell, but not obligated to sell, you know? So, and the last one is a very popular one. It's called, you know, swaps. Swaps are nothing but, you know, these are the kind of, you know, investment that you make within the derivatives. They are done, you know, for the cash flow purpose, you know? Basically, what you do is like you say, okay, you know, you have a certain, say, interest swaps, right? You have a investment where you're gonna be making, you know, floating exchange, you know, like a rate, you know, and which is today 2.5% in return. And then you have someone, but you cannot take a risk. You are at the business where you cannot take a risk, and if it goes down, you're gonna lose money. So what you do, you'll find someone who's willing to, you know, trade for 1.5% fixed. And so what you are doing, you're swapping from one to the other. And so this is one of the examples, but you have a lot of different kind of swaps, and derivative is so complicated, has a very huge, as I said, over $1,000 trillion, you know, like a nominal value market. It's a humongous. One of the prerogative, and I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to say it quickly. One of the things that a country like Nepal, where it comes in, is a derivative. Because it has a lot of private party mix and it has a lot of, you know, contracts, the country like the United States has done, you know, fairly well, even though it also had like a huge, you know, crash, you know, of 2007, 2009, you know, 2006 to 2009, when real estate really tanked big time, and it came out of, you know, very similar contract, you know. It has a derivative that was backed by mortgage, you know, it's called mortgage-backed securities, okay, and that really caused huge crisis. U.S. government had to put in about $1 trillion, almost $1 trillion bailout. And so derivative for a country like Nepal can be good because, as I said, it helps you manage your risk and also increases the value, the multiplying factor. Because otherwise, you know, say someone's, you know, you traded someone's, you know, the interest, someone's, you know, in a credit market, credit default swap where you know, traded someone's credit, meaning someone's risk, right? And so that company is relieving some of his risk, and you are taking it in return, you are making profit. So it has a lot of potential to make a lot of money, but also one of the things that must happen in order for derivative to work is your contract law has to be very, very, you know, very, very effective. Because in the US, you have courts that are assigned to handle in special cases like this one here. They are specialized and they are knowledgeable about contracts and how it is done. And so derivative, you know, can be useful for a country like Nepal, and I know it's going to continue to, you know, as bankers, will have you know, just like right now, you heard from two bankers how we have a cash crunch and all those things, and derivative comes in the picture, you know. Some of those things probably could have been managed had derivative, you know, like a market, you know, put in place in the country. So country can be greatly benefited. It's basically a contract between two parties, which is done, you know, for both regions to managing the cash as well as managing the risk, as well as increasing the value. With that, I'm not really sure how much time I have left. I still have time? Okay, so looks like I'm almost done with my time. I thank you very much. Once again, I'm going to be sitting down and learning from you guys. Thank you. Good luck.